guys, this is PainUser bringing you another audio analysis of a replay between myself and Strifecro of Evil Geniuses. He's a Zerg member on Team EG, and we often have great games on the ladder. I really respect him as a player. He's very talented, and we've had some amazing games on the ladder. So anyway, without further ado, this is a game between myself and him on Blistering Sands, and it's a ZVT. And Blistering Sands is actually a map that's very difficult for a Terran player, as you have these back destructible rocks. If you're playing against Protoss or Zerg for that matter, it can be very difficult to hold off a dual-pronged attack once they've destroyed those rocks, or they can open up that second avenue of attack and then force you to bounce your army back and forth between those areas. And if they're doing some kind of a one base all-in strat, they can do a ton of damage to you, and if you even try to expand, sometimes it can cost you the game. And that's what I really dislike about this map. And there are things like that on pretty much all of the Blizzard maps that I dislike. I can't wait till we have some more user-created maps out there that have much more balance involved in the thought process of creating the map. I really think that would change the way Starcraft2 is played drastically, because I don't think that Blizzard put a lot of thought or effort into the balance of the maps. They made them very different and very unique, and the maps actually create a lot of unique playstyles based on the maps, and it's exciting, but at the same time, it just really sways the scope of the matchups and creates some very strange dynamics. But anyway, that aside, Strifecro is sending his first Overlord directly up to my front, and I'm scouting his base just to make sure I see that expansion going up, and also to check to see if anything sneaky is going on. He doesn't have an early gas. He actually gets 2 lings out right as my scout gets there. So back at my base, I've just done a standard 12 racks, 13 gas, adding my factory, also adding my second gas very soon here after the factory. There goes my second gas. So on this map, I wanted to apply a little bit of early pressure. So my thought process behind this was, if I get out some early Hellions, I can retake control of the map, and then maybe do a little bit of economic damage. So the build I had in mind was just a standard Hellion opening, but without the reactor. I actually was using a Korean build that was popularized by some of the Korean Terrans that really didn't work out too well against a talented North American Zerg like Strifecro. It seems to me that the Korean Zergs are much more economical. They try and pinch out as much drone production as they possibly can, whereas North American players will build much more of a standing army and try and get more troops out on the field. Much more prepared for a random timing push. So anyway, here I'm throwing a Marine at the back rocks just to spot and see if anything is going on, see if he's trying to break down those back rocks early on. I'm also getting my first Hellion out, and I'm upgrading the pre-igniter upgrade. Strifecro is actually getting Zergling speed. He has both of his queens out, and he is just starting to pump drones very aggressively. On second thought, I actually should have been much more aggressive on his front door. I think I could have done some decent damage had I gone directly in there with my Hellions. I don't think I needed to be so gun-shy. Because as soon as that pre-igniter upgrade finishes, I could have wreaked havoc on him, and he really had nothing at his front door to stop me. But now that he's starting to get some speedlings out, it makes it a bit more difficult. So here I'm just microing my Hellions, making sure they stay alive, trying to buy time until I get my pre-igniter upgrade, which just finished. He tries to sneak his Zergling by and go for the full base scout, but I actually put my depot up right before he can get in and scout that expansion that I'm putting up. So I've actually added a starport now after my factory. I'm also adding a barrack and an engineering bay. And just producing Hellions one at a time until I get 4. And as soon as the 4th Hellion comes out, my medevac is about to finish. And I'm going to use that medevac to ferry troops up on to his ledge, or over the ledge rather, into his base. And it's really important that when you're doing any kind of a Hellion drop, that hopefully your opponent doesn't know it's coming in the first place, and 2, that he doesn't know where it's coming from. So that's why I left this 4th Hellion here at the Zalnaga Tower to maintain control over it. I was trying to deny him this portion of the map, make sure there weren't any overlords in sight, and clear my flight path on the way to the back of his base so I could successfully drop these Hellions off in the dark here and get them into his main base. So I take these Hellions in and just try and do as much drone harassment as I possibly can, as much economic damage as possible. He actually does a great job splitting his drones right there. I could have done way more damage had he not split his drones like that. So kudos to Strifecro for that. That was very well done. So now back at my base, I've got my natural up and running. I went ahead and Maynard about half of my SCVs over to the natural. I've added a bunker at my front door, and I also have a siege tank, and I'm getting siege mode. It's almost finished. And I'm going to use that to set up defense at my natural. I'm also adding some missile turrets because I was worried about him possibly getting fire, but especially with a build like this where you open with Hellions, and then I'm also adding 3 Raxes and siege tanks, I virtually have no anti-air, so it's really important that you cover yourself for any kind of wheels, surprise attack, or anything along those lines. So now I'm just continuing to produce siege tanks out of my single factory, and I'm also I've added 3 barracks, and I've put a reactor on my first barracks, and I'm also adding reactors onto the next 2 barracks that I produce. Strifecro has actually added a Roach Warren, and he's getting the ground upgrades going. He's also upgrading Overlord speed, and he's getting Hydra range, so he's using more of a Roach Hydra build. He's also clearing out the rocks in his 3rd, so he's going to get that 3rd up very quickly. He sends his drone right about now, and he's already cleared those rocks out, so he picked up his high yield very early on in this game. There he is, denying some of my scouting information. I was just trying to get a feel for what was going on. Sent Marines to both the Zalnaga towers just to make sure I had some map control. And he also takes his 4th expansion. So very greedy play from Strifecro right here. Double expanding to the high yield and his 4th mineral expansion. And this sets me back in a major way. I am still just working off of 2 bases here. I'm not even fully saturated at my natural. He is up 53 harvesters to my 40. He's also well ahead in the income tab. So I felt a little bit behind at this point, but not so far out of it that I couldn't recover. Now here he's sending overlords around my base, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm just stinning small groups of Marines and making sure to kill those overlords just to deny him any kind of scouting information. I'm also keeping tabs on the back rocks, making sure that he doesn't break through there. Now right about here is the time that I'm going to make a push. And that's key with this build, is that you have your push timing down solid. I'm about to finish my combat shield. I don't think it gets up in time.